All right, let's jump straight into this explainer and break down Argentina's electric 3-0 victory over Algeria in their Kansas City World Cup opener. I mean, the atmosphere there was absolutely incredible, but the story of how this game actually unfolded on the pitch and the massive records that got shattered along the way is even more fascinating when we really take it apart step by step.
He transcends time. Wow. That was the awestruck reaction from the broadcast booth as Lionel Messi started writing yet another chapter in football history. And honestly, it's a pretty powerful statement that was completely justified by the end of the night. But, getting to that magical, transcendent moment wasn't exactly a straight line. It was actually built on this foundation of intense early frustration for both teams.
So let's look at how it all began with Section 1, a game of false starts.
Right out of the gate, we had this wildly chaotic opening where both teams just suffered immediate back-to-back heartbreak. On one side, Messi actually finds the back of the net super early, but the flag goes up for offside. You could literally see the frustration on his face. And then, moments later, the tables completely turn. Mapaza, who's this Bundesliga standout they actually nicknamed Maradona for moments just like this, plays this immaculate ball to Faraz Shadi, who slots it home. But nope. The flag goes up again. Offside. No goal. Just a total emotional roller coaster right from the kickoff.
Which brings us to Section 2. The Masterclass begins. So, as the Kansas City sun goes down and that suffocating humidity finally starts dropping off, the entire complexion of the match just shifts. Messi finds this pocket of space, drives forward with real purpose, and just unloads a shot right into the top corner. Now, yes, it did take a slight flick off the Algerian goalkeeper, Zidane, but the placement was so perfect. There's absolutely nothing a defense can do when Messi executes a turn and drive like that. It was the moment Argentina truly arrived in this tournament.
But you have to look at how they got the opening, bringing us to Section 3, Algeria's tactical missteps.
Because look, you don't end up with a 3-0 result at the World Cup unless the other team leaves the door cracked open, right? And Algeria's foundation really started to crumble on the second goal. It starts with a wonderful touch by Messi, a great ball out from the Argentine goalkeeper, and a solid strike from McAllister. But right here is the critical error. Zidane makes an extremely poor decision. Instead of pushing that shot wide and away from danger, he parries it directly back into the penalty area. And guess who's right there? Messi. He's following the play perfectly and turns Zidane's mistake into one of the easiest happens of his entire 913-goal career.
Now, to be totally fair to Zidane, we do need a little context here. Algeria was already playing with a heavily weakened squad. Back in April, they suffered this massive loss when Anthony Mandrea dislocated his shoulder, totally ruling him out of the World Cup. That forced a huge, unavoidable adjustment at the back. But while you can't control injuries, Algeria's manager also made a genuinely baffling tactical choice before the referee even blew his whistle. To really grasp Algeria's offensive struggles, we have to talk about this number right here, 14. That represents the 14 goal contributions, including an incredible 10 goals that Myra produced during the African qualifying rounds. Nobody on that team contributed more to their offense getting here than he did. Which naturally forces us to ask, why on earth didn't Moira start the game? It just seems so weird to leave your absolute top qualifier on the bench against the reigning world champions. Was the manager intentionally sacrificing this opening game? Maybe knowing they don't necessarily live and die by this one specific match to advance? Sometimes managers have to make those really tough calls to save energy for more winnable group stage matches later on. But whatever the actual reasoning was, his absence on the pitch was absolutely glaring. And while Algeria struggled, Argentina capitalized. Moving on to Section 4, making World Cup history. Regardless of what Algeria was trying to do tactically, Argentina was just totally locked in. And Messi used those final minutes to completely rewrite the record books. Actually, before we even get to the final goal, just stepping onto the pitch was historic. This marked his 200th cap for his country. That is a staggering achievement of longevity that puts him entirely alone in Argentine lore. I mean, just look at the records that went tumbling down in this single match. First, by simply playing, it's his 6th World Cup appearance. Second, by the end of the night, he locked in his very first World Cup hat trick. Third, he tied the legendary Diego Maradona for the most assisted goals at the World Cup since 1962, sitting at 8. And finally, the absolute crown jewel, he tied Miroslav Klose for the most goals in World Cup history. He is literally sitting at the absolute summit of World Cup goal scorers now. All of that cemented in one 90-minute performance. And to cap off that record-tying night, he secured the hat-trick with just pure artistry. The broadcast captured it perfectly, calling it a pass into the net. It wasn't about brute power at all. It was so incredibly precise, stroked home with such wonderful technique, that he made it look completely effortless. A truly historic moment delivered with his signature elegance. With that final stroke of the ball, Argentina secured a majestic 3-0 victory. That performance literally brought the entire stadium to their feet. And you can't blame them. They knew they were witnessing history. They were watching a one-of-one talent that we are probably never going to see replicated in the sport. What a perfect opening statement from the defending champions. So, as we wrap up this explainer, we are left with one incredibly provocative thought. After a Day 1 masterclass like that, tying the all-time records and securing a historic hat-trick right out of the gate, is there actually anything left in the footballing world for Lionel Messi to conquer? It's definitely a question worth pondering as we watch the rest of this tournament play out. Thanks for hanging out with me today, and I hope this breakdown helped you see exactly how history was made on the pitch.